You swore he would not interfere.
I know. I'll handle it.
You have proven you cannot.
I will.
Ungrateful Mark. Altering the terms of our agreement. You were nothing more than a corpse when I found you. You think you own this body? It belongs to me.
We'll find the scarab.
I'm Derek.
And I'm Noah, and you're listening to A Bite Of,
where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession and enjoy it one nibble at a time.
Sorry, my voice cracked.
One, I never know where you're going when you do that part of the intro, so I'm always kind of like waiting for a longer thing. And this time, it was the exact thing that's in the script that we wrote years ago, but then your voice cracked. So I don't know what to do anymore.
Just go with it. The one time it was perfect.
Yeah, you better add
the
those
words,
air quotes.
The words were perfect.
Correct, yes. The delivery was off.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Before we get into the new episode of Moon Knight, can't you believe it? A new episode. We have a new episode. Moon Knight has a new episode. It's lots of love. Many phases of the moon. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at A Bite of Pod. Also, if you want to support the show in any way, we have a Patreon. Exclusive episodes. We just came out with a video of us talking about everything everywhere all at once, and also Real World Homecoming. Is it? No, it's The Real World
Homecoming, New Orleans.
New Orleans, while also putting on an Oscar Myers baloney face mask.
Yes, I enjoy this segment that we created called Pampered Pop Culture because we're taking care of ourselves while there's nothing that goes
while
with it.
Talking about things that we like.
Well,
in pop
right.
culture.
I wanted to make it sound snappier that I was going to say taking care of ourselves while taking care of you, but that sounded disgusting.
Taking care of your ear and eye holes.
No, that's even worse. We're touching your eye holes.
So, yeah, if you support the show, we can touch your eye holes and ear holes while we talk about pop culture
exclusively. Wowzers.
All right. Well, before we get into this newest episode of Moon Knight, as always, we have to just take a step back and refresh our minds a little bit. I know it's only been a week, but a lot can happen in a week.
Indeed. So, Moon Knight Episode 1, The Goldfish Problem. Meet mild-mannered Brit Stephen Grant. He wakes up every morning in his London flat chained to his bed, surrounded by sand, with a front door that has tape around the frame. He feeds his fish, R.I.P. Gus, and leaves a voicemail for his world-traveling mother. He heads off to work at the museum gift shop. His boss, Donna, is the worst. The next morning, he wakes up in a field with a voice in his head. In this unknown European village, Arthur Harrow, leads a cult of Ammit-worshipping townsfolk. He wants his scarab back, Stephen. A car chase follows, and Stephen blacks out. While he's not in control of the body, he has some Mission Impossible-style driving skills. He heads back to his apartment, where he finds a phone in his wall with missed calls from Layla. And also, his reflection talks to him. Arthur, is at the museum and later releases a jackal to attack Stephen. In the loo, Mark Spector appears in the mirror and Moon Knight is released.
Yay! Great first episode. As you heard on our last episode, we did rank the premiere episodes of every MCU show so far. There's 6 of them. And Derek's still holding at number 1 is WandaVision. Mine, WandaVision was always the number 1. It got edged out by Moon Knight, the first episode. So we'll see how we feel with the series going forward.
All I have to say is WandaVision, WandaVision.
I mean, the way that they just did new intros every time, and the amazing couple that did the theme songs and changed it with the decades / types of shows they were doing.
It's the Frozen couple. It's the couple who wrote Frozen.
Yeah, I mean, catchy.
Powerhouse. Let it go. WandaVision. They know what they're doing.
So good. I mean, the music alone, I always have to give, like, WandaVision did it. They did it so hard.
But listen, Moon Knight was high on my list.
It was high. It was number 2.
Yeah, it was number 2.
Right?
So
yeah.
I believe so. So I didn't hate on it. Okay. It was a whole week ago. I could barely remember.
We put on Instagram stories because we posted our rankings, and the hilarious thing is that both yours and mine, we had people vote.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, whose list did you agree with? Both yours and I tied for agreeing, but more people disagree with mine. So I don't know how to take that. Less people disagree with yours, more people disagree with mine, but the same amount of votes agree with.
So maybe my supporters are just more vocal.
Maybe. Or mine.
Yeah.
No, mine are more vocal because more didn't agree with mine.
That's what I'm saying. So my supporters, the people who liked mine better, are more vocal to tell you that yours is wrong.
Thanks.
That's just simple context clues.
Yeah.
You know
Whatever.
What I mean?
But hey, the same amount of people liked ours, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with these things, I rarely have opinions that like the general fans enjoy. But the fact that like folks enjoyed my picks, I was like, do I know something?
Well, I think it's just having WandaVision at number one.
Oh, so he said you're wrong everywhere else, but just WandaVision. Okay.
No, just kidding.
Listen.
I mean, you can't lose with saying WandaVision. You know what I mean? It's like I felt the first one just did it for me. It edged it out just enough.
You know what though? Just to talk, let's just talk about WandaVision for a second.
No,
the fact that
we did that over a year ago.
When these new trailers of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness come out, the things that people are talking about mostly are the Wanda scenes.
Okay. Can I? Since we're putting pause on Moon Knight for just a smidgen, just a second, say we're in the twilight before it gets completely dark and the moon comes out. Yes.
That was one season ago.
I love Wanda. I love Doctor Strange. I love that they're both in the same movie. I don't love that most people care about Wanda. It's Doctor Strange's movie. Come on.
Okay, but
also America Chavez is in it,
right? Which they're burying completely.
I feel like they're just waiting to for her to have her big moment.
I agree. They want us to see her in action in the movies because a lot of people don't know her. But I think you have to say though, right? So out of the Avenger lineup, right? Doctor Strange might not be the most well known of the Avengers.
He's had a movie.
Okay, fair, right? But
sure.
I'm kind of what I'm trying to say is that I'm agreeing with you in a sense, but I'm painting the picture of why things might be the way they are.
Yeah.
So he's not really the most well known. I'm staying away from popular.
Just say not the most liked.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But then Wanda, who really also as an Avenger wasn't really well known, but then her series was incredible.
Yeah.
So of course people are going to lean more towards Wanda.
Right. I mean, I get it. And people are rooting for her. I get it.
You're such a Sour Patch Kid.
No, I just love Doctor Strange, and I just want more people to love him.
Noah's like, but guys, he was wearing sweats in Spider-Man. He's likable and down to earth.
He wore it for 5 minutes, if that.
Remember when everybody thought because he was wearing sweatpants, it really wasn't Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
People
were like, variant. It's a variant.
He would never wear that. It's an imposter.
All right. Well, let's just back out of this Multiverse of Madness because I'm sure. Because when Moon Knight ends, the next day Multiverse of Madness comes out, and I guarantee you we're going to have something to say about it. So
Noah got the tickets already, people. We are going.
I did. I waited right when they went on sale at 9 Eastern time and went furiously at any movie theater that would give them to me.
Yeah, I think we're going to a movie theater that's 45 minutes away.
Stop. So... Anyway, spoilers ahead for the newest Moon Knight episode 2. Oh, wait, this is your part.
Well, either of us can do spoiler alerts, but don't you dare step on my intro line.
Go ahead.
Let us officially take a bite of Moon Knight episode 2, Summon the Suit.
Ooh, I just love the name of the episode. I didn't even know what it was about yet. I knew it had to do with the Moon Knight suit. Wink. I just love the name. I don't know why.
Okay.
It's just a cool, marrying of 3 words. It's just...
Summon the Suit.
It's kind of cool.
Studio. Okay, but listen. They're doing this Summon the Suit, like a transformation sequence, like Sailor Moon.
Okay.
There's ribbons happening.
You
It's
didn't
going
make it
around
10 minutes
them.
into it.
I'm just saying that they sure are taking a lot of inspiration from Usagi Tsukino. Okay.
It's an Egyptian god. There's mummy wrappings. There's just coincidences. Anyway, fresh off of the first Moon Knighting as Moon Knight. I tried.
Ooh. I would say he was moonlighting as Moon Knight.
Fresh off of his first moonlighting as Moon Knight.
Gorgeous.
There we go. Cool. Stephen wakes up back in his apartment. Feel like we've seen this before. Understandably confused about what the hell happened to him the night before. Feels very much like a hangover situation.
I do like that we see that his ankle contraption does indeed work, because for some reason when he wakes up, he runs from his bed. Like, I don't know, like you have a nightmare and you just get up and you run as fast as you can away.
I mean, you've startled yourself when you're dreaming. It makes sense. The last thing he saw was a jackal chasing after him. His mind thought it was still happening.
All right, fair. I will say that one night in our new house, our dog Dallas barked so loudly at something.
Oh my God.
That I was in the living room and I don't even think I was fully awake yet.
No, and then you went outside and walked around with them.
Well, I had to see if someone was out there.
It's like, what is happening? I'm like,
I thought my husband would patrol the grounds with me, but instead he went to bed.
I woke up, I was like, no, I'm good.
And then I got back in bed and you were like, where are you at?
Whatever. So Stephen leaves his apartment and goes into work, but we all know what happened to that museum bathroom the night before. He gets a peek at the museum security footage, and of course, there's no trace of the jackal-looking creature that attacked him. So now we know it's invisible to cameras.
Right.
To everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that like maybe they're so ancient that like the frequency that they're at just hasn't caught up with modern technology.
Whoa, that's a stretch.
But also like, so JB is like, oh, the pipes bursted. It's like, I'm sure Donna, I'm assuming she's like the floor manager, maybe the front manager.
I thought she was just the gift shop manager.
Right. Stephen obviously gets in trouble for this,
right,
or whatever. But it's like Donna's just okay. Like they're like, yeah, he single-handedly destroyed this bathroom. Sinks flew off the wall and smashed it. Like, guys.
Well, you know, they don't necessarily know what happened in the bathroom. They just saw him go into the bathroom. But don't forget, there probably aren't any cameras in the bathroom. So maybe he just flushed and then the pipes broke.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Well, I get it, but it's also like if I worked there, I'd be like, what is happening?
You know, I think that we're going to have to take a moment to mourn the loss of Donna. Because if he's not going to be at the museum any longer, I don't think we're going to see our girl.
How much you want to bet the reason why Stephen got the job at the gift shop is because there's something there that they're supposed to, like, it all is going to lead right back to that museum.
What if Donna is Amit?
I would love
Donna
that.
is the crocodile face goddess.
I would love this. So, of course, though, Stephen is not really too surprised when higher-ups, aka cult members of Harrow, of course, decide to fire him. But hey, at least they're not going to press charges. That's great. But he does get a severance package of a nice little pamphlet for people that he can go talk to about his erratic nature, about what's going on with him.
And we also see the death of the life that he loved when he hands over his name tag.
Yeah. It was sad. He did look really sad. It was like, oh, that was like the thing that he had. It was like the constant.
It was his joy.
Yeah. Well,
he's got dead fish. He's got no mom.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
You know, so I was thinking about Gus, okay? And so he died,
R.I.P.
presumably. And there's a new fish in there with two fins, two fully functioning working fins.
Mm.
Do you think that, I mean, like, is Mark replacing these fish multiple times? Like, we don't know how long Stephen has been there because we don't know if his frame of reference of time and life is correct or if his mind kind of filled in all those gaps. Mm-hmm. We don't know. Mm-hmm. We don't know. But is Mark like replacing these fish constantly because he goes out on his like mercenary missions or whatever?
And nobody feeds
him, so he just replaces the fish?
I guess so. And then this last time he just didn't look close enough and it only had one fin. Poor Gus and Gus 1 and Gus 2 and Gus 3 and Gus 4.
Gus probably 10 at this point. Who knows?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Although the engineering of that tank is pretty dang cool. It's set in the middle of a bookcase.
This is pretty cool.
That's cool.
He also has a lot of books. A lot.
Yeah, he loves to study.
Yeah. Egyptian
Things.
history.
Yeah.
What?
Things?
Oh, I thought you said fins. I was like,
No,
oh.
things. No, not Gus. Not
I was
Gus.
also thinking about Steven's accent because it's obviously a choice. It's obviously a choice for them to do it in the show.
Mm.
And we know from what we know in our Before You Watch Moon Knight episode that Mark is like the OG, I would say. And then there's the alters, being Steven as one of the alters. And if my theory, I keep going with this, if my theory is that whatever happened, whatever thing that made the DID really come out or begin or whatever, and then it's like that's when Steven started and he thinks that, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's American. Mark is American. Regardless of it, he's doing a British accent of what you would think a British accent would be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's kind of off. And it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like the other British people that are around. So it's like an American doing a British accent.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I also feel like he did a lot of like bruv this episode.
Mm.
Bruv, yeah, bruv, which is like such a choice.
Yeah. It's very exaggerated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's, I don't know. I don't get it. It's because we're still in the introduction stages.
Well,
So
yeah.
we're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely we don't have all of the pieces to the puzzle right now.
Nope.
And we can kind of fill in the blanks, but we're not going to know what really happened until they just tell us.
Yeah. Or
And
show us.
sometimes what we've learned in watching these Marvel shows is that we kind of sometimes give them too much credit, and then they're like, no,
You got boned.
it's just British.
No, it's not.
Yeah, we're like, he's trying to overcompensate, and they're like, no, it's just because he lived in London.
It's like Oscar Isaac just actually didn't know how to do a British accent, so we went with it.
Exactly. They're like, this is what he came to the table with, so it's fine.
After Steven gets fired, he uses the key he found hidden in his apartment along with the cell phone, through which he spoke to that mysterious Layla. Last episode, he tracks down his/Mark's storage locker, which I want to say it's more of a storage container. It's gigantic.
Yes, and it also feels like an end of the world bunker. There's like,
Doomsday Prepper.
yeah, an army cot, a utility light, a bag full of money.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
this is obviously Mark's like mercenary hideout / I'm gonna stash all my
And
stuff
a very shiny gun.
very shiny. I
Very
mean,
shiny.
it would go with the Moon Knight aesthetic. I'm just saying, it
And
had
also,
a
it's
white handle and it was a silver gun.
and it's reflective, so he can talk to his other personalities.
He did. He did do that in this
Mhm.
episode. Yeah. Speaking of the bag and the gun, the bag was full of incriminating things:
Hmm?
a gun,
Oh,
foreign cash,
yeah.
a passport belonging to, wait for it, Mark
Mark
Spector.
A U.S. passport.
He also finds the golden scarab in there, where he finally is like, oh, that wasn't a dream last night. This is all real. So Mark went back to that storage unit at some point last night and put the scarab there. But then, so he also left the keys for the storage unit.
In the pocket.
Wait, I'm just now realizing this. Like, Mark obviously wanted to hide that from Steven.
Maybe maybe he didn't think that Steven would go to 5 different
Oh, maybe.
storage facilities.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
He did some legwork.
So in this sequence, so this is one of a few kind of exposition dumps or exposition showings that they do in this episode. Mark speaks to Steven via the very reflective surfaces in this storage unit.
Someone fact check if storage units have reflective
They
walls.
don't. They're usually like that corrugated metal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just saying from experience.
Poetic license.
Yeah. Mark insists that he relinquish control of the body, but Steven isn't having it. I like when he says, I don't care how bloody handsome you are. Steven saying to himself. And he asks him, tell me what you are. So this is the most direct introduction to Mark that we've had thus far in the show. And here are a few things that we learned about good old Mark Spector in this one conversation. Mark was once part of a team of mercenaries who executed a group of archaeologists Mark serves the Egyptian god of the moon, Khonshu, as his avatar on Earth. He is tasked with protecting the vulnerable and carrying out Khonshu's justice, which he says very interestingly. He is also paying off a debt that he owes Khonshu for saving his life. Again, going back to the whole, he died.
Mhm.
We'll find out about it at some point. Also, Mark explains that if Steven lets him carry out what Khonshu requires, he can have his body back when he finishes. He says this a few times throughout the episode, so it's interesting that there's an ending to the contract. Because, I mean, there's been kind of a few stories where Khonshu, like, relinquishes power, but it's never like, do this one thing for me and then you'll be free. It's like, no, he was kind of dead and you gave him life. And the whole point of him being Moon Knight is because you gave him life again.
And I think an interesting thing that they're doing here is that they're making it seem like Mark wants the contract to end. Whereas I feel like in the comics, he just serves Khonshu.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the more recent Moon Knight runs, it's just part of Mark and Steven and Jake and all. It's just a part of who he is. He knows that this is his life now. He protects those who travel at night. That's what he is. So it's not so you're right. It's like he doesn't want it to end. Really,
it just
in the comics.
is who he is.
Right. Except for when he, like, Khonshu manipulated him into destroying the
That was a while ago.
But it's fine. So in this scene, we get our second Khonshu kind of scary chasing moment that we did just like in the first episode. Khonshu appears and he flees from the bird skull deity. I love this scene. This is so far really both scenes with Khonshu appearing to him in the hallway from the apartment, and this time in the hallway for the storage room. These are the most horror-like moments we've gotten in these very isolated, just Steven/Mark and Khonshu moments. So I like it. I want more, but I don't mind it. Of course, this scene would not be without talking about freeze frame gate.
Yeah, when we first watched it, I thought that our internet just froze. And then upon the second watching, I realized that it happened again. And it was done on purpose.
Most people thought that the Disney Plus had kind of skipped or whatever. I don't mind it because I only feel like because there are campy moments in it, I don't understand why they would go that far. It almost felt like
B movie. It's like B horror movie.
It felt like older TV shows where it was like the ending of the episode and it would kind of stop on their face and it'd be like to be continued. And then the credits would go. That's what that felt like. I don't get it, but it's like also I just don't. It doesn't bother me too much, but it is noticeable.
Yeah.
Like I noticed it the first time and I was like, oh, that was interesting. And then I noticed how many people were like, what? What's that?
What is happening? And I also think, though, that you kind of bring up a good point, which is something that I think this overall episode, which is like a problem for me in this overall episode, is that it feels like a lot of repetition from the first episode. Waking up in the apartment, confused about what's going on, scary Khonshu in the hallway, still not understanding what's happening. It just feels very repetitive. And it's like, yes, we do learn some more throughout this episode, but a lot of the elements were the same.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, we still have like a lot of runway to go before the show really, like 2 episodes, I think is like the max of like, if you have 6 episodes to like, okay, we've been introduced. Now let's really get into it.
Because we're a third through this 6 episode event.
We still have 4 hours of this show, probably more, because we have no idea how long the last 2 episode runtimes are. I'm just saying
4 hours each.
Oh God.
Good morning.
I mean, I would watch it.
Of course you would.
Yeah, I absolutely would. So this brings us to the new character introduced in the episode. Oh my God.
Indigestion?
I had a hiccup. I had a giant burrito before this. So it's very much like
that enchilada style's coming up, baby.
So Layla rescues Steven from the storage unit where Khonshu was chasing him yet again and returns him to his flat.
On a Vespa.
On a Vespa. Very awkward conversation. In this, we find out that it's Mark's wife.
Woo.
Question mark, exclamation point. To my knowledge, he's never been married in the comics. He's had an on-again, off-again relationship with a particular woman.
Missy.
But Missy?
Wasn't that her name? It's like Missy or something like that.
Yeah, that was like a very like one-time thing. I'm talking about like the archaeologist. Oh my God.
Archaeologist?
I'm thinking of like archival stuff and also an archaeologist. See, I just said it. That's fine. Great.
That burrito did you dirty, boo.
I'm thinking of the daughter, Marlene.
Marlene, that's her
right.
name.
She is throughout the comics.
Not
Is kind of
Missy.
right. I was like, what? Did he call her Missy?
I think I read Missy once.
Or maybe it was Frenchie calling her Missy.
Oh, maybe.
When
I
you
don't know.
read
Those
comics-
early comics were a lot.
They call women very interesting names like Sweetie and Honey.
Oh,
and
my
it's like,
favorite is still when they were thinking of the name of the Avengers and they were like, "Shut up, Wasp, you woman.
oh, yeah.
Why don't you go do your makeup?"
No, they say comma woman.
Terrible. So terrible.
It's so bad. On that little Vespa journey, whenever she did mention that she was his wife, did you see how sad no, not sad, happy Steven's face was? Because he knows he can never hold a relationship. And he's like, I'm already married?
Yeah, you know what? This episode truly shows that poor Steven is just a bumbling fool.
Man.
He just wants to have a normal life and he can't.
He tries. I want to say that this character, so who is Layla? Again, she does not exist in the comics. I do feel like she's like a new character, but based off of the Marlene
agreed.
character. So, I think it's fine. I don't think Marlene really wasn't that big of a deal, and she really hasn't been in the comics for a very long time. So, I'm all for it. It's not like a Mary Jane or a Lois Lane, where it's like, that's a titular love interest to the character.
She is around. She's in the first ones. And then is it Lemire's run when he's in the mental hospital when he's being held captive there?
Yeah, no, she's around.
Yeah,
she's just not
'cause he
always his
saves-
love interest. She's a supporting character to
Mhm.
him, but she's not always a love interest.
Mhm.
It's very on and off. It's not. It's like you kind of wouldn't. Again, it wouldn't be a Lois Lane or a Mary Jane. It's just not synonymous with the character. It could be.
Lois Lane, Mary Jane, Marlene. It doesn't rhyme, so
See-
it can't be.
What? I was like, is there a song with both of their names in it? No.
There is now.
No, there's not. It is interesting, too, that Layla knows that her husband, maybe soon to be ex-husband, is a vigilante hero with a magic suit, but doesn't know about his DID. So that's interesting.
Well, she only knows Mark
Well, right.
and his Sailor Moon like capabilities.
But if you I'm just trying to figure out the timeline. I'm trying to figure out when Steven started or if he always started. Do you know what I mean? Because they went on adventures. They were hunting for the golden scarab together.
Mhm.
You would think at some point it would be like, who's Steven?
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't until he left Layla and is now in this flat and is in London and has his gift shop job where Steven is the one that's piloting the body the whole time. That's why I'm trying to figure it out, because he was Moon Knight with her. So it wasn't like, oh, he became Moon Knight and then the
Right.
DID came about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to like pinpoint all that. Not that it really matters, but it's like it's
Well-
an interesting way to tell the story.
Yeah, I think as viewers, we want to know a timeline and know when things happen. So I understand you trying to figure it out. I don't know if we're going to get any answers, but I appreciate you trying to piece it together.
Thanks. So this episode does set out to do and to tell us very specific things to kind of get him out of the way to move along the story. And that's why I give this episode mostly a pass for what you were saying about how it feels a little repetitive from the last one, just because they're just getting the story out
Mm-hmm.
and trying to make it as entertaining as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mark's stressed relationship with Layla subverts one of the most tiresome tropes. I have to point this out. I'm just talking about Layla for a little bit because I like her so far. But I do think it's interesting that, again, she knows about Moon Knight. She's not a Mary Jane. She's not a Lois Lane where the guy hid his superhero identity to protect the damsel blah, 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 in distress. It's not like that at all. So Shooty knows all that. She's not in the dark. The only thing she's in the dark about is Steven.
Yeah.
But also Steven is in the dark about everything else.
It feels like she's gone on adventures with him. She's been on digs. They've done stuff together. So she's a part of his life, a very big part of his life.
Right. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a cool departure from what we usually see in these superhero type things with the Supermans and the Spider-Mans and the Batmans and all of that stuff. It's not
all the mans.
Yeah, it's not hiding that. So be that this scene with Layla and Steven, I always want to say Mark, in his flat, there was kind of a sweet moment when he starts reciting this French poetry and stuff, but he's like, this person's my favorite. She's like, it's my favorite. I'm like, ooh, sweet moment. Ended real quick.
Yeah, but it's like, is he just like, is Steven, this personality of Steven, just borrowing pieces from other people to be created to deal with whatever trauma that Mark has gone through?
I'm trying to figure it out.
And we also learn that he says that this is my mom's flat.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, the mom he's always talking to. But then she says to him, oh, you guys like are talking again? So who is he talking to when he's leaving those messages?
I mean, he could be talking, and I put that in quotes, but it's always the voicemail. So maybe he's actually not, like, he is calling his mom, but she's like, I'm not talking to you because you didn't come to Thanksgiving dinner.
I feel like there is another phone buried deeper in his wall that is the quote unquote mom phone that Mark put there.
That's
so he's just
so
calling
sad.
another Mark burner
It's
phone.
so sad. I don't like that. He's so sad. I was curious. So anytime in any type of Marvel or whatever property where they say something in a different language where they don't translate and it's very like a quick thing, but it's a specific piece of literature or whatever, I'm always curious what it is. So I did kind of look it up. So the poem is called Apart. That's the English translation to it. And the lines that they say translate to, do not write, I am sad and I would like to turn off. Beautiful summers without you are like nights with no torch. It's pretty depressing.
About a cell phone.
Also romantic and relevant. But yeah, I think it's because it's like Mark kind of has that desire to turn off. Like he doesn't want to do this anymore, but he knows he has to do. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I always like, I'm trying to, like, why did they pick that thing? It's like, oh, it does make sense to what's going on. Maybe there's a deeper meaning under it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So wait, let's try and build the backstory here. So maybe Mark marries Layla before he's Moon Knight, right? Then Layla just thinks he goes on a job where he's a mercenary, but she doesn't know that. He gets killed, comes back as Khonshu. Then they're doing things and he's Khonshu. And then something else major happens. And then Steven comes around.
You mean he's Moon Knight?
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, well, I would be freaked out if you came back and you had a bird head.
Well, I mean, he talks to a bird guy and has magical suit that he can summon. So, but she seems pretty chill with it. But, you know, it's like, I wonder, like, if Mark was already Moon Knight, would he then marry Layla? I feel like he married Layla before that stuff happened.
I don't know if it would be as complicated for him to fall in love with somebody if it was Mark and Moon Knight and Khonshu, and not Mark, Moon Knight, Khonshu, and Steven, and Mr. Knight, and maybe possibly Jake Lockley. You know what? So maybe it just got more complicated, but it seems like there is something that happened. Something happened to make Mark not want Layla involved anymore, and maybe it is that. Maybe that's when he became Moon Knight. Maybe that, but she knew about it, so it's so interesting. We have to find out in this next couple episodes.
They better piece it together.
Yeah, there has to be flashbacky type scenes with Layla. All this kind of interesting stuff. She also brings divorce papers, so we know that Mark filed for divorce. So again, he wants to distance her from Khonshu's journeys that he's on. And of course, Steven's upset about that. He's like,
Steven wants is the love.
I would never divorce you. It's like, okay, chill just a little bit, Steven. You've known her for maybe 15 minutes.
He's like, you speak French. I speak French.
We both have the same favorite poet.
Yeah. We rode on a Vespa together. We have to stay together forever.
During the scene, Mark keeps appearing to him in reflective surfaces. I will say that London and this entire show has so many reflective surfaces. It is fine because that's how you have to talk to each other. But
is it?
yes, it's fine.
Can it just be on any wall? Can it just
No,
be in his
what?
mind? Why does it have to be in a reflection?
I actually
It's not called Mirror Night.
I like the reflection more than if it was. There's been so many times where somebody's like talking to themselves, but there's like a physical embodiment of them. I like that better. I like the reflections better than like a physical astral projection of themselves.
Sure, but this is just making him need to be near reflective surfaces at all times.
I will say that they did find some creative reflective surfaces, like a shiny gun.
A shiny gun.
Yeah.
The shiny inside of a storage facility. Tinfoil.
Well,
His lunch.
as the conversation kind of goes a certain way, and Steven seems to be upset that Mark would ever divorce Layla, Mark starts demanding control of the body. Don't get Layla involved. Don't get into it. Don't show her the golden scarab. I think this is another interesting way that they're showing DID, in that how he's battling with himself, battling with his different alters, his identities, and doing something as simple as talking to somebody that is your wife.
You know, something I've been thinking about is, what do folks with DID think of this depiction of DID in this show?
From what I've seen, I've done light research.
Yeah.
So do not quote me on this. From what I've seen from professionals and stuff, or people that know people with DID, they say that it is a good representation so far, because they're not necessarily like making a joke out of it, making it campy. There's signs that, I guess, how Oscar Isaac talks or reacts to that type of stuff, where it's pretty true to that. So I think the verdict will fully be out when we see the extent of it. I know there's that stupid, and I'm saying stupid, and usually I don't like to call, no, that's not true. This is a very stupid theory that some people are out there saying, and they're trying to spread. I will say, if you listen to us with just believe that I really believe that Marvel wouldn't do this. There's a theory that people are saying that Mark, the body, is able to hold multiple variants inside of it. So from different Earths. So like, the whole Loki thing or whatever.
Gosh.
And anytime an alter comes in, it's just switching between the variants or different realities or whatever. I don't think that they would put a character like this with DID and them talking about it on the press tours, and how Oscar Isaac is like, this is a character study. I don't think they would do that, because that would be very cheap. Like,
yeah.
They would just make a whole new character in that
feels
aspect.
like a jumping the shark moment if
Right.
they did that.
If they did that, which I do not think they will, I hope they don't. Many people have seen the first 4 episodes, and if that would have happened, I'm sure we would have heard about it. It would be very bad for everybody involved in this. And I don't think Oscar Isaac would do that.
Oscar.
I don't think he would. He's smarter
Don't
than that.
do it.
Poe Dameron.
Poe Dameron, you.
Yeah.
You Poe.
What?
Poop head.
There's no other puns with his name. I think we've exhausted them.
I thought you were going to do a pun with exhausted.
I was going to try to do a moon pun with Poe, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Mm-mm.
We don't know.
So in this conversation, again, we do find out that they were hunting for the Golden Scarab. They've been on plenty of adventures together. And just like the HR guy at the museum, there's more Arthur Harrow people that come knocking on the door and interrupt this conversation.
He's got a lot of friends in the authorities.
Apparently, there's a lot. There's quite a bit. And I mean, how long has he been operating / walking around with glass in his sandals and talking like a very bad Batman impersonator?
Yeah.
That he has this much influence over these people. But,
bringing whole communities together.
We've seen cults in real life do crazy things, so I guess it's
growing
not too
tomatoes.
far-fetched.
Growing tomatoes.
And this whole episode, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I think the way that they're doing this storytelling is an interesting way, because it's like Mark into Steven's life builds on Moon Knight's growing mystery and heightens it. But I'm just curious how long we're going to have to be with Steven in the dark, just like he is, to really be like within the whole universe.
Well,
and I'm hoping this is the last time.
I think so. I think we got a solid 2 episodes of Steven being confused. We can't do any more.
Right. I mean, and hopefully maybe Steven, or depending on what happened to that alter's whatever, maybe that will come to light and will maybe fix some things or fill in some gaps for us and also Steven. So Detectives Fitzgerald and Kennedy, those are their names, by the way,
Oh.
who both work for Harrow, reveal to Steven that Mark is an international fugitive, a mercenary whose team raided a dig site in Egypt and executed the archaeologist. Archaeologist.
Words are hard.
I keep wanting to add more freaking
I want to hear all of the things you want to add.
archaeologicalist. It's like the thing and the person's profession I'm trying to put
if you said it, I would be like, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Archaeologist.
No. I don't like it.
So he's bad.
Yeah, and so I mean, this is the interesting part about this is that in Layla's conversation and this, it very much seems that Mark, outside of his mercenary skills, he doesn't have the power unless he has the suit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the strength and yeah.
Right, as opposed to Moon Knight being just Mark always has it, and the suit was just something he stole off of a statue in the temple. So it wasn't necessarily the suit that gave him the powers, it was...
It's a very transformation moment.
Yeah. So, welcome to Harrow's Town.
Come on, guys.
Too soon?
No. What?
So
just north of London lies a little town where people leave their doors unlocked and Ethan Hawke leads a cult.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have to say, I don't know how far they drove out of London, but this is obviously where, because you were confused with everybody else when Ethan Hawke, without any words, introduces himself with putting glass in his shoes.
Mm-hmm.
But he walks out of this building, which we saw in this town.
With those like crescent moon
which
walls.
Is European, because they're in Europe. But I guess he was there. And it's like, what?
Yeah, and I just am confused. Does he have multiple complexes? Because in the first episode, Steven wakes up in a place that looks like the Alps.
Because he's in the Alps.
But all the cult members are also there. But then they're also living in this other place just outside of London?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He has multiple compounds. He also has multiple followers. So how long has he been in operation? Unless Amit has just been influencing people. But we found out in this conversation that it's like he's her first avatar. I don't know. He seems a little old. He could have done it for a while.
Well, no, we all know that we can never forgive the hair or whatever they're trying to do with that look. And also the voice. Why the voice, Ethan Hawke?
He's menacing.
He sounds like Devin Banks from 30 Rock, but
oh my God.
just like really bad.
Well, yeah. Also,
yeah.
It's not great.
And then also in this scene, him trying to speak Chinese and also use like a Spanish accent when he says Victor.
I don't remember the Victor part. I remember, no, that's when he said he's very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he said they have to learn 3 languages. I guess that's a requirement to be within the cult.
Well, you have to be able to go all over the world and get more followers for Amit.
Yeah. So Harrow tries to win over Steven in a way and drown out Khonshu during this whole walkabout in his compound village and trying to get him on his side and really trying to figure out what is going on with Steven. Harrow reveals that he was Khonshu's former avatar. I don't believe that, but whatever. And that Khonshu has been banished by the other gods. Alas, Harrow does tip his hand a little bit through these exposition dumps / catching up / conversations, explaining to Steven that the scarab is a compass leading to Amit's tomb and that he and the rest of Amit's devout followers intend to bring her back to life. So that's his goal. Just like most villains, if you give them enough time, if you get them on your side, they'll talk and they'll tell you their whole plan.
Mm-hmm.
He showed him his hand. That's what his point was, which I guess we kind of thought we knew already, but maybe it just wasn't explicitly said.
Right. Yeah, we knew it. We knew it.
So I did like how, from Harrow's perspective in this scene, how he sees the conflict or how he sees Khonshu and Amit. And he says Khonshu punishes those who have already walked an evil path, which is true. His retribution comes too late, which is, I don't think is true. By the time his Fist of Vengeance arrives, people have already suffered. Ammit knows this too well. She tears evil up from the root, casting her judgment before evil is done. And that's why they must resurrect her. I very much like Stephen was very concerned by that sentiment because, I mean, like you said, that does mean killing children.
Yeah.
That does mean killing people over thoughts that you might have had. Everybody has had bad thoughts.
Yeah, he admits he wanted to kill Donna.
Yeah, I mean, who hasn't had bad thoughts?
You know, it's interesting. It's kind of like it's two prongs of the same branch in a sense where like Khonshu is like, I'm the fist of justice. I bring justice. And Ammit's like, I kill evil before it's evil. It's like
It's Minority Report. That's
exactly. They're on the same mission, but like they just do it differently. Like one waits until the evil happens and the other one doesn't.
At birth.
Right. Exactly.
Just test them now.
So, but yeah, it's definitely Minority Report, and it's this philosophical conversation that they're having is the entire plot of Minority Report.
That's very true. Where's Tom Cruise?
Right, exactly.
I mean,
He's
Ethan Hawke.
Khonshu.
If there was a 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, we could very much connect Tom Cruise to this just through Ethan Hawke. I was going to say Kevin Bacon, which looks a lot like Ethan Hawke now.
Agreed. Agreed.
Whoa, we found that out. But I did like in this line where once, you know, it seems that like he doesn't have the golden scarab on him and he's not able to just easily hand it up. You see Harrow kind of get a little frustrated and he's like, you know, hand it over, Stephen, hand it over, Stephen. And you see all of his members start standing up because they're obviously about to either fight or overpower Stephen. But I did like that Stephen in his conversation with him, and he's like, whoa. You know, I draw the line at child murder.
Yeah.
Which is great. I love that we know Stephen's line.
Stephen. So as the scarab is the compass to Ammit's tomb, Stephen is the moral compass of the Moon Knight family.
Yeah. Well, speaking of morality, I think that this is the moral debate of the entire show. What we just talked about, Minority Report, you know, taking out evil before it even starts or waiting until something is acted upon to then have proper justice. I feel like that is the moral debate through the entire thing.
Are you team crocodile face or are you team bird face? Team Khonshu, team Ammit.
I mean, I like the name Ammit better, and I don't know, at least he's not killing children, so that's good.
Yeah, and also
yeah,
like Khonshu is also like sort of funny in this depiction. Like I like when Stephen first gets out of the car and is talking to Arthur and he's just going, kill him.
Yeah.
Like what does he say? He says like
crush his
windpipe. It's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny.
I like it.
That's why like I think I'm
team comedy.
Yeah. Well, I had expectations, especially because of the trailer and everything, that it was going to be a little more supernatural or thriller. Supernaturally thriller.
Thrilling.
Thrilling
supernatural.
That's why it was. Why do I do this? Why do I try to make up words where there's already words of the word I'm trying to make up?
I think you're excited.
I am.
It just takes
it's
over
like
your body.
My brain moves faster than my mouth, and then my mouth just makes up words that my brain doesn't know what's happening.
Fair. That happens.
Ow, I hit myself.
I'm falling apart over there.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought it was going to be a certain tone, and they do have that tone in this, and I feel like it's going to maybe change as it goes along. But the like humor, the very few times it has had humor, and the kind of campiness of it does throw me off a bit. I like it. Like that moment where it's like, crush his windpipe. It's like,
I feel like
what?
the campiness mainly comes from Khonshu.
Also, yeah, that's true. And
you know?
Stephen, when he's in a very weird predicament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to it.
Yeah. Harrow asks Stephen if Khonshu chooses him as an avatar because of his mind is so easy to break, or it was already broken.
Oh,
And
too far.
Stephen says, I'm not broken. I was like, oh my God. Arthur is a bad dude.
Yeah, he's manipulative as heck.
He's showing his hands, so he's trying to be like that cool mayor, but then he's also like a kingpin.
He's literally
Terror.
a cult leader.
Right. And he like presents himself as a sympathetic villain, which we've seen plenty of times in the MCU. But just saying so, like, I mean, he's doing murder, gentrification, stigmatizing mental illness. He's a bad guy. Bad man. Bad Arthur. I don't like
He's
it.
a lentil pusher.
I don't like it.
He's a glass stepper.
Oh, that's
He makes them watch weird films of dolphins and flamingos and
Hey.
hummingbirds.
that could be David Attenborough's planet.
Why are you sticking up? Why are you sticking up?
Because I that is not too far from what I would be watching at night.
I don't think there's any narrative. I think it was just weird hypnotizing nature films.
It's like weird subliminal messaging.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. In this scene when things start getting a little hairy,
Including his windblown hair.
my God, guys.
He has a Beyonce fan on him at all times.
Wait. Okay, hold on. Let me introduce this character in the scene and then we can talk about that. Layla dramatically enters into the room while holding the golden scarab high above her head. She willingly tells everybody, I'm here. This is the thing that you're looking for. I don't, why was she there? Did she want answers? Was she trying to protect Steven? Does she not? But she doesn't even fully believe that Steven exists. It's very odd. I don't know why this character would do that, and I'm kind of hesitant to fully believe her. Keeping an eye on that one. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I hope she was doing something because the flourish of her holding that scarab above her head and winding it down to her face and announcing that it was there was just too much.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand why she would do that. She went on missions with Mark to find it. Obviously dangerous missions. She said we fought to find it. Why would she so willingly, I don't know, advertise?
Okay, so wait. Now, okay, we have another
Wait.
we have another sort of theory happening here that maybe, so on
Don't
the
say
cane
it.
of Amit,
Uh-huh.
there are 2 crocodile heads,
2 avatars?
2 avatars.
Mm.
Maybe she's working for Amit.
I really maybe think that she's actually the avatar of Amit
Mhm.
and Arthur's just a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that. I kind of hope it's not that way because that's
I
just
kind of do.
it's heartbreaking for Mark/Steven and Layla. I don't know.
Layla's really evil.
No, I don't want that. But in this scene, when she does announce it, for some reason, that also summons just wind around Ethan Hawke's hair.
Just the hair.
The wispy strands of hair are blowing. Nobody else's hair is blowing.
I was just going to say, I looked at everyone else in the room. There was at least 30 people in the room.
It also goes to Layla and Steven.
No other
No.
wind. No one else's hair was moving.
It's the power of Amit.
Okay. Weird choice, guys. Weird choice.
It was dramatic.
Stop bringing more
The-
attention to the hair.
The entire scene was very dramatic. I didn't mind it, but it was also very confusing.
It was like playing on like the Mummy movies.
Yeah.
Like that level of like camp action.
Yeah, right. And I don't mind it. I just don't expect it.
But what?
You know what I mean?
Okay, so we keep saying, or they keep saying, the world keeps saying this is a tonal shift. But what is the tone that they're shifting to?
Maturity.
Maturity.
The blood.
I didn't see no blood in this episode.
There
There
was
was sand.
blood. Was there blood? Oh.
There was
I don't think there was.
pratfalls and comedy.
There was almost a curse word. There's that.
How about that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the tonal shift is definitely like matured. Yeah, but I don't definitely saw in the first one, not this one. I don't know. I guess we'll see. So Arthur then attacks with his men and yet another jackal. Layla, Mark, and Conchu beg Steven to summon the suit. Summon the suit, Mark. No, not Mark. Steven. I keep getting them confused.
I mean, of all beings, Conchu should know that he can't summon the suit.
Well, he should. I don't know. Mark should be. I don't know. It's happened every other time, but Steven is very much wanting to hold on to control here.
Yeah.
Layla does say, before he does eventually summon the suit, she calls him Steven. She's like, Steven, you can do this. So maybe she's.
You know what she said? She said,
Ow.
ooh.
I keep hitting my knuckles on the
Oh
table.
my God.
Guys.
She said,
What?
Steven, believe in yourself. You can summon the suit.
There's no other words to that song.
Khonshu.
There's no other words to that song.
I just added them.
You can't.
You can tailor it to anything that you're watching or wanting. You can tailor it to anyone you want to believe in themselves.
Guys, just for backstory with that, I know you've heard him sing that a few times on this podcast. And when he does do it, you hear me go, "Rrr," every time he does it. Because
He hates it.
yeah. But the reason why is usually when you sing it, I'm already frustrated at the task that I'm doing. So like either trying to install something or trying to fix something or whatever. And you say, believe in yourself. And I'm like, that's not helping.
I'm just trying to help.
I know.
And I want to give you a little boost. So I just want to tell you to believe in yourself.
So Steven gets knocked out of the window and at the lost possible
At the
soccer,
lost possible.
uncut jams. Steven is falling to his death. He summons the suit, just not the one that anybody was expecting.
What?
Instead of landing on his feet wearing the ceremonial armor of Khonshu's temple, Steven transforms into the psycho Colonel Sanders.
Best line of the entire thing.
Mark characterizes his body mate's badass form. I thought it was a very funny line. I liked it. While Steven's new look has yet to receive a name we all know, and if you did listen to her before you watch Moon Knight, you know that this is Mr. Knight. This is the suit
Right. That's a very good point.
of Mr. Knight. And before we talk about the show's liberties on the character, I just want to do a brief, tiny, itty bitty little reminder of Mr. Knight. On the page, Mr. Knight is another alter who is the detective. And I put that in quotes. He's very much the face, the public figure. Also, in a way like Batman, he's just more calculated and he can just detect things. Matter. He's better at putting pieces together. Each one of his alters typically brings a different skill to the table, and that's Mr. Knight's skill that he brings to the table. So it's almost like a whole superhero team shares one body. Just think about that's how Moon Knight is kind of.
Oh, that's fun. I gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, in an intriguing invention to the TV series, Mr. Knight is essentially Steven's superhero identity.
Yeah,
while
and
Moon Knight is Mark's.
And he's like a goofball.
Well, I think the only thing, and I think it's fine. It's.
I think it's fine. It's fine.
I had, you're expecting something like, this is the character. The poster for Mr. Knight is so kind of like confident.
It's confident. It's brooding. And in
Right.
this depiction, he's like, put him up. Put him up.
Right. And it's not Steven. The only thing I will say is that if this is Steven's superhero identity, if this is the way they're going to do it, it would make sense for Steven to be a little more confident, for him to act a little differently. It's almost like how Clark acts differently than Superman does.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I will say against that is that it is an alter. It is an identity in the comic. So
Right.
essentially it's kind of like erasing a character.
And also, so this is like the second character that they've completely rewritten. Steven's completely different than what Steven's supposed to be.
Right.
And now Mr. Knight is completely different from
Yeah.
what Mr. Knight is supposed to be.
And from what we know, we don't think that Jack is in this. But I looked at, after we watched this episode, I looked at those character posters they came out with.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one where everybody assumed it was Steven. I don't know if that's Steven. I think it might be Jake. Because he has like this hoodie on. He has it on and he has like this big watch.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff. So I'm like, the more I look at it, I'm like, is this Jake?
Yeah.
Are we going to get another one? Which is fine. I mean, introduce all of his alters. That's what this character
Right.
is. I don't know. I want to reserve judgment for Mr. Knight until we fully see it. Some people have said, well, maybe Mr. Knight hasn't fully developed yet. And this is like seeing his identity being born or made or something like that, which, I mean, I don't know if that's exactly how that works, but could be. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I just think that I just hope they're not afraid to introduce more identities/alters
Right.
because it's too many. They're just going to be like, no, Mark is Mark, and then he turns into Moon Knight to be a superhero,
And
Steven is Steven, and he
yeah.
turns into Mr. Knight to be a superhero. And it's like, but kind of the whole intriguing and the storylines and how he deals with everything is because there's 4 or 5 different alters inside of him. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
So anyway, Mr. Knight's debut fight provides a very pretty ridiculous visual thanks to the commitment to rendering the jackal as invisible, because only Steven / Mr. Knight at this time can see the jackal.
Yeah.
Not even Layla can see the jackal.
I think it has something to do with if you are an avatar, like if you have the powers of one of the gods in you, then you can see the other beings, sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that. It could be like Harry Potter, where like the Thestrals, where you had to have seen death or die to see them. Or since it's not exactly clear what powers Moon Knight even has, there's some instances where he can see things that aren't there. And I'm not talking about like he's hallucinating. He can see, like, there's one, I think it's Jed McKay, where he literally fought like an army of green ghosts that weren't actually there, but they were there. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. But we know it's real. I mean, the jackal is there. It's just literally invisible because it picks Layla up by the leg. And
so it exists.
Right. It's there. It's just invisible for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if, what's his name? Oh my God. Arthur. Jeez Louise. I don't know if his people can see it.
I feel like Arthur can see it though.
Right. But can his people see
and
it?
there's also a piece of me that thinks like, okay, so if Arthur is tied to Amit, it means that he has some like godly powers in him, so he can see the jackal.
Just the staff.
Which makes me think though that he can also see Khonshu, and so he can really hear everything that Khonshu is saying, and that's why he's able to. Right, that's why he's able to manipulate.
I don't trust for a second that Arthur was his avatar before him. I don't trust that, but I just think he's just trying to.
Yeah, but then I don't know. Why didn't
you hit your knuckle too?
Man, we're just hitting knuckles all night tonight. We're just real angry and passionate. I don't know. Then why didn't Khonshu, the god, say no? He wasn't.
Oh, good point.
You know, like he can hear everything.
Like he wasn't afraid to tell him to crush his windpipe, but he's completely silent whenever. I don't know. Weird. I mean, maybe he just wasn't there at the moment. I don't know. He was busy.
See, they need us in the writer's room to ask these questions.
They don't.
So they can fill in the blanks.
They don't need us anywhere near the writer's room.
Hey, I do not agree with that. I'd be great. Marvel, bring me in.
We bring him in. Don't bring me in.
I'll be a good story editor because I'll be like, wait, why? And they'll be like, just shut up, Derek.
They're like, that's literally not how TV shows and movies work. And you're like, no, we need 15 episodes.
It's continuity. We need it all to fit together.
So in this fight, we hear Mark, after he gets his butt kicked, even as Mr. Knight, Steven as Mr. Knight, and he has super strength at this point, gets his butt kicked, and Steven finally gives up control to Mark to let him be Moon Knight and do his thing. Which, I mean, this whole transformation scene with him on the bus, and then as he turns into Moon Knight. We've seen it in the trailer. We've seen plenty of gifs of it. It gets better every time I see it. It's just so cool. This is also like really the first time in this episode that we see Mark as Mark. We see him as a person in this one. So it's very interesting. I feel like we're going to be with Mark for a minute, which I hope so. At least 2 episodes. And then we get 2 other episodes with Jake.
Poor Steven believed in himself for a little bit there, and he thought he could do it.
Yeah.
But he couldn't.
Yeah. Moon Knight leads the jackal across the rooftops to a more secluded area. I loved this scene so much. So much like the comics. Moon Knight on the rooftops, jumping over stuff, running across bridges with the moonlight. It looks so cool. There was a really cool, did you notice when he was running on top of the roof where there was a reflective surface, you saw Mr. Knight as his reflection?
Oh, no, that is cool.
That was pretty cool. That's cool. He was in his Moon Knight form, so therefore Steven was in his Mr. Knight form.
Right.
That's kind of cool. I like that. He kills the jackal by impaling it on a tiny little steeple.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand what that thing was. What was it? It had mirrors at the bottom of it.
Yeah, see, again, we're stretching here. We're trying to find mirrors, so there's a pointy thing with the mirrors at the bottom.
Well, they needed it for this next conversation.
Well, if we didn't rely so much on mirrors, then we wouldn't have needed it.
It's fine.
Mhm.
I like it visually. It just
Yeah.
looks more convincing. The placement and the quantity of mirrors isn't, but the looks.
The next time we go to London, we're going to be so surprised at the amount of mirrors that are everywhere.
You know, I went to London. I was there for 4 days. Don't remember a mirror once.
I've been to London 3 times. I never really remember a mirror. If we
Not
have
even
any,
the hotel room.
Hey, if we have if we have any listeners in London, are there a lot of mirrors around?
Can you count how many mirrors you see today?
Comment below.
And comment below how many.
By the way, nobody has video or photograph commented below. I'm just saying.
Why? What did we tell them to do?
We asked them for if they could do the thing with their knuckles to send us a video
Oh,
of it. And
I mean, it's okay. You don't need to.
I'm just saying.
Kind of weirds me out.
I'm
I mean,
just
if you
saying.
can do that, you're beautiful. And so
This
are
is
your hands.
exactly what you said in the last episode. You literally said the exact same thing.
At least I'm consistent.
Anyway, count the mirrors. Thank you.
The conversation between Mark and Steven in this moment is intense.
Mm.
And again, another interesting look at how the alters are when somebody else is in control. Steven doesn't like it.
No, he's like, you can barely breathe.
Yeah, even though I'm not annoyed at Steven, I want to see the Mark. I want to see the Moon Knight.
Yeah.
For the Moon Knight show. I want to see the character that I've read for years. This Steven has, he's a special place. He's like, you can't help but feel bad for him. And especially when he's describing what it feels like to not be in control and that he doesn't like it in there. He can't breathe. It doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark is like, yeah, I know. You're going to take all your willpower just to be in the reflection. But he did say an interesting thing that somehow Steven was able to shield Mark. He was able to
He put up a wall.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Again, the plot thickens. I know we're going to get answers. We better get answers because this is an event. This is not a season 2 thing. This is an event.
Yeah.
Give me the entire story, I beg of you.
We're hoping. We're really hoping.
Mark promises Steven that when he is done serving Khonshu and he has paid his debts, he will go away and let him take over, which is quite dark. It's like Mark is like, okay, I'm just going to...
He's going to finally
Fade.
acquiesce.
Right, which is sad. Mark also explains that Khonshu has chosen Layla as his next avatar. Very weird. And that's the reason for distancing himself and trying to keep things from her. He doesn't want her to be indebted to Khonshu like he is been indebted to Khonshu. I get it. It's an act of love. That's why the divorce thing happened. That's why he went off the grid. Maybe that's why Steven is there. He's just trying to separate himself altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Only time will tell. They argue a little bit more. He starts smashing the mirrors. This is where he almost said the word fuck. It was like, and he smashed the mirror. So it was like, it wasn't the full word, but I'm like, y'all talked about tonal shift. You could say the word fuck. Do you want me to bring up the scene that is in with Frank Castle, Punisher, and also Daredevil, where fuck is thrown around like 50 times?
Listen, if I have to put my pin into Disney Plus to watch stuff, you guys better drop some
Oh my
F-bombs.
God. Yeah. Just one.
Not on Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Not
But
on Mark's watch.
These intense scenes are where Oscar Isaac shines
Yeah,
in the
in
Moonlight.
the Moonlight.
I had
I
to
was
do
with
it.
you.
But that's where he shines. We've known this actor and we know that he is great at playing complicated, intense, very high emotion scenes. And this is what this is what I hoped for him to do. I'm loving that he's delivering on it. Khonshu has a talking to with Mark at this point, and he says, "You were a corpse when I found you." So we know it's pretty much confirmed that he did die.
Yeah.
So the original origin story is still intact here. He did die, and
Mhm.
Khonshu gave him life again. With the scarab gone and now in Harrow's hands, Mark and Khonshu have to get going, with Steven in tow to where it all began, Egypt. Seeing Steven upset in the mirror when we flash to Mark and Steven in Egypt, he's in the mirror and he looks very upset. And Steven's like, I got a job to do. I'm sorry. No, Mark. See, guys, it's hard. But I wanted to point out this very last scene that we see. You know what's different about this scene? How Egypt looks. In most film and TVs, even Wonder Woman is guilty of this. Wonder Woman 1984, I think, was the year that it came out. is it has that orange filter. It has that, this is a desert.
Right.
This is somewhere where there's not natural sunlight. This is like one of the first times that I've seen on like a big mainstream TV show or movie or whatever where it doesn't look like that. It looks like Egypt.
Like a city, yeah.
It looks like a city. It's not orange filter.
Mm-hmm.
I very much appreciated that. I
Yeah.
like that. I mean, it just goes to show you that, oh, when you put people in charge of doing things like this that aren't probably, I don't know, stereotypical, they won't make something look like it's stereotypical.
Yeah, and we get to experience it more in the next episode, probably, because our boy's in Egypt, folks.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
I do want to say something, though.
Oh, great. Here
that
we go.
I think
Dark side
that
of the moon here.
point of this episode was fan service to the people who love Oscar Isaac. Okay. So we get that line in the beginning, and it's like, I don't care how handsome you are, you know, whatever, I'm not going to listen to you. Right.
Right.
Then when he's Mr. Knight, we get this interesting shot. The jackal lifts him up in the air, strangles him, throws him against a car, and the angle
His
we
booty.
see is through the window and them tight white suit pants on his booty.
Yeah.
Then in this final scene, our man Oscar Isaac is in some H&M boxer briefs, drinking in
Was he
his
shirtless?
room. Yes. Completely shirtless in little boxer
I think
briefs.
I did notice, but I didn't. I think I was just so amazed at how they did Egypt in this.
I was amazed that we got our boy Oscar Isaac in some booty shorts, baby.
Well, I mean, yeah.
They were totally like very smartly showing off the goods.
Yeah. I mean, you saw how he broke the internet being on the red carpet, sniffing that woman's arm.
He kissed her shoulder.
Sniffing. Because it was in slow motion, it looks like he's sniffing her arm. That's why I'm saying it. I know he doesn't actually sniff. I mean, he probably did sniff her arm.
It's sexier because he slowly kisses her
No,
shoulder.
but that's what I'm saying. It looks like he's sniffing her arm, and he broke the internet because he made it sexy.
The people want more Oscar
Yeah.
Isaac sniffing booty stuff.
Okay, so wrapping up this episode, and I wanted to, because I know Derek felt a certain way about this episode. I feel a certain way. I think this episode, surprisingly, kind of early on, divided a lot of people. Made people kind of like, I don't know, it's weird. I think it's like a concern of the sameness, because it feels very much like the first episode.
Yes.
Has the same beats.
Yes.
Chase in the hallway scene with Khonshu.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the reason for that. I'm kind of glad these weren't one episode or they didn't release both of them at the same time, because I'd be like, oh my God, this is the same episode. You know what I mean? A week later helped it a little bit,
Yeah.
but it was, we got more Moon Knight.
Right. I think my thing is that we do only have 6 episodes with this character right now.
Yeah.
And the fact is that we're here for Moon Knight. I wanted more Moon Knight in the second episode of Moon Knight, but instead what I got was more of the same beats of nervous Steven not knowing what's going on.
Well, right. It eliminated screen time where we could have seen, I don't know, him beating the crap out of jackals or goons or whatever in like a
Exactly.
deserted hallway or an alleyway or whatever. Very much like kind of how the Netflix Marvel shows or any of the MCU movies, whenever they fill time or they get from point A to point B or whatever, they fill that with action scenes. And we kind of didn't, like, we got running away scenes
A lot.
until the end.
And that was in 2 episodes back to back.
Right, right.
You know,
I don't think we're going to get that again. I mean,
I don't think so either.
Just yet.
It feels like at least for the next episode, we're going to be solidly living with Mark,
Mhm.
which is definitely the tonal shift we've been waiting for. But I do think that this second episode felt like a bit of a wasted opportunity to me.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I kept thinking, I was like, there's something that's bothering me about this, and I don't know what. Like, I felt like I was missing something. I liked it, I think, much more than you did, but there was something that bothered me, and I think I figured it out. It was the CGI fight. I don't mind CGI fights. I'm not saying that they're bad, but we have yet to see Moon Knight
Mm-hmm.
be Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
And actually fight. So it's like when we keep seeing these kind of, it almost seems like devoid of like stakes almost. Like it's
Mhm.
just kind of hollow. Like, it's kind of fun to see him, like, him running on the rooftops was more entertaining than him fighting the jackal.
Yeah, and I also think we're still very much devoid of backstory here, and it's like, still,
Well,
like,
we're
I think-
figuring it out with
yeah,
Steven.
I think I
right?
said this in the last episode. It's like, okay, we know they're after the scarab. We don't know who got it first. We don't know where they found it. It's just something that exists, and now it's being passed back and forth.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know. It just feels like, why don't we know anything? We don't really know anything.
Well, yeah, I think that's just the way they decided to tell the story. I just hope that we got it. Introductions all out of the way. Everybody has been introduced, unless there's like a surprise character later on. But it's like, that's it. Okay, now the plane is taken off. Let's see where we are now.
Ethan Hawke has the scarab now.
Yeah.
Layla saw him kill the man who picked it up.
Did nothing.
Did
Just rode away.
nothing. She just rode away in a Vespa. And I guess they're all going to be in Egypt now?
They have to. I mean,
Yeah.
Layla, so far, seems like she's a person that follows people and just announces herself.
Yeah.
So I'm sure she will show up in Egypt and save Mark / Steven / Mr. Knight or Moon Knight. So we'll see. I mean, I think the benefit of having a protagonist who's 2 or 3 people at once, there's always a fresh Moon Knight in the chamber.
Mhm.
So I feel like they can always do different types of storytelling depending on who's in control.
Sure.
I don't know. We'll see.
We shall see.
Yeah.
All right. Should we get to the special segment?
Yeah.
Talking to the gods of the moon. Sorry. I was a little flat and pitchy and everything wrong with singing at that moment. Okay. So the legend of the Aztec god of the moon, Coyolxauhqui, is a brutal one. Pregnant
Okay.
mothers, brothers bursting from wombs, and dismembered bodies are the main points of the story here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well, at least they don't throw up food and feed it to people, which is somehow more disturbing.
That's true. But let's get into this. So the mother of Coyolxauhqui was cleaning on the top of Snake Mountain when a ball of feathers fell from the sky and landed in her apron. From this, she became pregnant with the god of war, soon to be...
Wait.
soon-
I missed the part where she actually got pregnant.
No, you heard it. A ball of feathers fell from the sky and landed in her apron.
Okay.
And then
Feathers usually don't stick together, but it's fine.
Listen, gods usually aren't cleaning on top of Snake Mountain. So anyway, so
Okay.
she becomes pregnant with the god of war, soon to be the moon goddess's brother, Huitzilopochtli. Dang it, there's this thing that you say, whenever you're like trying to learn a new language, you should always talk out loud. I didn't practice this enough out loud, so I apologize.
You're no different than me then. With every episode when there's
Huitzilopochtli.
What?
I'm sticking with that. Huitzilopochtli. That's the god of war. Okay. So the moon goddess, whose name translates to bells on her cheeks, was furious that her mother became pregnant and called her 400 brothers, the stars of the southern sky, to come and kill her mother.
Wait, did she get pregnant with all of them from the ball of feathers?
No. Just only the god of war.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No,
I
these
would
are her other
hate
brothers.
to know how the 4 other times she got.
Well, no, you figure she's the goddess of the moon, so her brothers are the stars. So she calls the 400 brothers who are the stars to come and kill the mother. So as they're coming to kill her,
I got it.
her unborn brother explodes from his mother's womb, fully formed as the adult god of war.
Wait.
And he kills and dismembers Coyolxauhqui. He then throws her body down Snake Mountain. And he chucks her head up into the sky, where it then became the moon.
Ew. What?
So in
Is Snake Mountain in Disney World?
Snake Mountain is in Mexico City.
It
And-
just sounds like Space Mountain. That's why.
Oh,
yeah.
And in archaeologists in 1978 discovered a large 10-foot disc at the base of where this temple was, and the
Snake Mountain?
Snake Mountain. It was actually, they were excavating, I think the thing that I read, they were excavating the basement of a bookstore in Mexico City, and they found this 10-foot disc.
Oh, I was like, why was there a bookstore?
Because
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
but
no, it's
I forgot you said Mexico City. I was like, excavation sites usually aren't. This whole thing is confusing me.
So the disc that they found depicts the dismembered corpse of Coyolcoqui. And in the Aztec civilization, there was a day that celebrated this deity. And on this day, a sacrifice would be made, dismembered, and then the pieces were thrown down the temple steps, much like Bells on Her Cheeks was in the legend. So the disc itself is really beautiful, but the story is quite gruesome.
What was her real name? Bells on Her Cheeks?
So it's Coyolxauhqui.
Oh, okay.
But that translates to Bells on Her Cheeks.
There's a lot of confusing names in here. I was like, wait.
Yeah, and
who?
the disc, you should see this disc. It's pretty stellar. It's this huge 10.5-foot disc, and it's like her main torso, and then all of her legs and arms are separated from her body. Pretty
and they
righteous.
did that to people?
Mm-hmm.
How long ago did they stop?
Whenever the Aztec civilization fell, I guess. I don't
that's
know.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the legend of the Aztec moon goddess.
I'm sorry, you threw a ball
Coyolxauhqui.
of feathers at me, and
Never recovered.
No. And I was like, "Where are we? When did they do this?"
You got it with these myths. You just have to go with it. Okay, so
Excuse me.
I like how you're like talking for an hour and 15 minutes about a man who has the god of the moon in him and turns into a Sailor Moon-esque character and fights crime, but yet you're like, she got pregnant from what? That doesn't make sense.
I think that's reasonable. Guys, comment below. That's reasonable, right?
Everyone's like,
Probably not.
no.
It's fine. All right, later, skaters.
Bye. Thanks for listening to A Bite Of, artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at A Bite Of Pod and on Facebook at A Bite Of. If you have questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can email us at abiteofpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Please be sure to rate and review to spread the word. Hope you join us next time on A Bite Of. Bye.